Chapter 11. After Harold knocked 3 heads, tears of humiliation rolled in his eyes. But he didn't dare to make a mistake at the moment, because he knew that Grandma must have strong dissatisfaction with him now. At this time, he can't say anything to make her angry anymore. The old Mrs. Wilson saw that Harold kowtowed his head and admitted his mistake. She felt a little more relaxed. She didn't want her grandson to kowtow to Charlie, but the point was that this poisonous oath was about her own life. She has always believed in Buddhism. If Harold doesn't kowtow to admit his mistake, she is afraid that she will have trouble sleeping and eating, for fear of retribution to her. So, she looked at Harold and said lightly, "Harold, these 3 heads are for you a little lesson. Don't bet with others casually about things you are not sure about. Even if you bet, don't harm your family." Harold said with a sad face, "Grandma, I know, I won't dare anymore." When speaking, his eyes cast a look at Charlie, viciously waiting for him, thinking, "You rubbish, forcing me to kneel and kowtow to you and lose face, I will kill you sooner or later." Immediately, Mrs. Wilson opened the mouth and said, "It is gratifying to win this contract today. Everyone should hurry to prepare during this period. We must take this opportunity to build a good relationship with the Emgrand Group." Charlie reminded her on the side, "Grandma, since Claire talked about project cooperation, should the position of company director be given to Claire?" Old Mrs. Wilson raised her eyebrows, and she couldn't help but think to herself. She did say that whoever gets the contract can be the director. However, when she thinks that Claire has always been disliked by herself, and that her rubbish husband has been disgusting, her heart beats again with a different tune. If Claire is held up and she will not be under her control in the future, what should she do? At this moment, she wanted to withdraw her previous promise. After all, when she made the promise, she didn't swear a poisonous oath. Even if she took it back, she will feel at ease. However, she felt that this kind of remark could not be said when Claire just signed the contract, so she said in a convenient way, "Well, tomorrow night, I will hold a banquet and invite someone with good looks in Oris Hill to the scene. Then, I will face-to-face announce our cooperation with Emgrand Group and the appointment of a new director." Upon hearing this, Charlie was relieved with satisfaction. Claire also smiled gently. It seems that the position of the director is finally her own, and she does not need to be squeezed out in the future, and her parents can raise their heads again. Old Mrs. Wilson turned her face, looked at Claire, and said, "Claire, there is one more thing. Grandma wants you to help." Claire hurriedly said, "Grandma, would you please say?" Mrs. Wilson said, "I want you to contact the chairman of Emgrand and invite him to the banquet tomorrow." After a pause, the Lady Wilson said with a look of expectation, "If he can come to our banquet, it will definitely be a brilliant good thing for our Wilson family, and it will also make us famous." Claire thought for a moment, and hesitated, "But the last time I went, I only met Doris, the vice-chairman of Emgrand, and never met the chairman himself. Moreover, we just got someone's project and are holding such a banquet. Does it not seem too deliberate?" "So what?" "I just want to tell the whole Oris Hill people that we are now tied to the big ship of Emgrand, and in the future our Wilson family will develop." The Lady Wilson finished speaking, and then said, "Even if the chairman of Emgrand does not want to come, it is okay to invite Doris over. She is the number 2 figure of Emgrand Group, and it would be very face-lifting for us to ask her to come over." At this point, Mrs. Wilson was already excited. When she thought that the big clans and big families who had not looked towards the Wilson family in the past might have to rely on the snort of the Wilson family in the future, she couldn't help but burst into enthusiasm. The Wilson family, in her hands, will become even more brilliant. Claire thought for a moment before replying hesitantly, "I understand, I will try." "It's not a try. Must be invited." Claire nodded lightly, and then quietly asked Charlie, "What should I do? What if the chairman of Emgrand doesn't come? What if Doris is unwilling to come?" Charlie laughed and said, "Try it, don't you have Doris's phone? Maybe the other party agrees as soon as you call." The Wilson family will hold a banquet. In addition to showing the strength of the Wilson family, Claire will also be announced at the banquet. Wife is promoted to director, and it's not bad to be a husband of such a woman. At this time, Claire didn't know that her husband was the chairman of the Emgrand Group. She sighed a little tangledly and said, "The other party is the chairman of Emgrand, and it is said that he is the young master of the Eastcliff family. How can he come to the banquet?" Charlie smiled and said, "I don't think it is necessary. Maybe the other party is always at home with his wife, cooking and washing clothes." Claire was annoyed at him and said, "Do you think everyone is you?" Charlie nodded, "Yes, it is very likely that the boss of the Emgrand group is just like me." Claire curled her lips and said softly, "Cut it. How could it be possible?" Chapter 12. Knowing that Charlie was joking, Claire didn't care, stepped aside, and dialed Doris's phone. Soon, the call was connected. Doris's pleasant voice came across, "Ms. Wilson, hello." "Hello, Miss Doris, I have something. I want to ask you for help." Claire said embarrassedly. "Well, say it." Doris agreed. Claire organized a few words, took a deep breath, and said courageously, "I want to ask if the chairman is free tomorrow night. We want to hold a banquet at home and officially announce the cooperation with Emgrand. I hope the chairman can appreciate it and bless us with his presence." Doris was silent for a while, then replied, "Ms. Wilson, I can't do this, or else I can help you ask the chairman's opinion." Claire respectfully said, "Thank you, then I will trouble you." After hanging up the phone, Claire held the phone in some anxiety, waiting for news from the other party. At this moment, Charlie's cell phone rang suddenly. Charlie was taken aback, and then he scolded himself in his heart. He forgot to mute the phone. It must be Doris who called to ask his opinion. Charlie answered the phone with a calm expression on his face, and said, "Yeah." Doris's voice came from the other side, "Chairman, the Wilson family is going to hold a banquet tomorrow night. Would you like to go there?" Charlie replied, "Oh, that's it, it's okay, I'll be fine. Just hang up." After that, Charlie hung up the phone quickly, and then mumbled, "These sales promotion is really annoying." Claire didn't doubt anything, but shortly afterward, her mobile phone rang again. Doris's voice came over again, "Ms. Wilson, our chairman has agreed, and will pass by then." "Really, that's great, thank you for your help, and thanks to the chairman for agreeing." Claire was suddenly very excited. She did not expect that the other party would actually agree to it. Claire hurriedly said to Mrs. Wilson, "Grandma, the chairman of the Emgrand group has already agreed." "Really?" Mrs. Wilson was suddenly excited. After that, she immediately said to the Wilson family present, "Go and prepare for me. Order the best hotel, order the best meals and drinks, and prepare to welcome the Emgrand chairman. In addition, inform all the big companies in the city and invite them to our banquet. Tell them that the Emgrand chairman will appreciate their presence." Immediately afterwards, the entire Wilson family became busy. Everyone was extremely excited, constantly contacting various partners and the upper-class figures of Orris Hill City. This is undoubtedly a blockbuster. For a time, the entire Orris Hill City learned of this news. The mysterious new chairman of the Emgrand Group will soon appear at the Wilsons' banquet tomorrow. Mrs. Wilson received countless inquiries, and she responded with a smile. She is so happy today, because as soon as the banquet is over tomorrow, the Wilson family will definitely become Orris Hill's hottest family. Thinking of this, she smiled excitedly and said, "Okay, come here today and start preparing for tomorrow's banquet, the meeting is over." At the end of the meeting, Mrs. Wilson returned to her office. Harold rolled his eyes and followed closely. "Grandma, are you really going to give Claire the position of director?" When he walked to a place where there was no one, Harold couldn't help but speak directly. Old Mrs. Wilson frowned slightly and said coldly, "I have promised Claire, why can't I give it to her?" Harold still insisted, "Grandma, you can't let her be the director." The Lady Wilson asked back, "Why?" "She won such a big contract. She is the company's hero and deserves to be entitled." Harold hurriedly said, "Claire was able to win the Emgrand contract because Wendell from the Jones family was behind her back. I heard that Wendell went to her house yesterday. Emgrand Group signed a contract with us today. What a coincidence. You see, 80% of it is because she slept W.T.H. Wendell. The old Mrs. Wilson looked sullen and said, "What you said is true." Harold said plausibly, "Of course it is true. Wendell did go to see Claire last night. You can find out after checking." After that, Harold said to Mrs. Wilson again, "Grandma, she is a married woman at first. If the matter between her and Wendell is spread, let people know that our Wilson family got the Emgrand Group contract by this means." "Where do you put the face of the Wilson family? Where do you put your face?" Old Mrs. Wilson frowned. She had already believed most of it in her heart. Wendell liked Claire, she knew it. On her birthday, Wendell also gave a jade amulet worth 3 or 4 million. This also reasonably explained why Claire was able to get a 60 million contract. At this time, Harold said, "If you let such a shameless woman be the director, then our reputation will be even worse. At this time, we must choose someone else to be the director, and then we will also give credibility to the project. Go to other people, and it's best to choose a man. This can avoid gossip to the greatest extent." Old Mrs. Wilson nodded gently. She believed Harold's words 80%. Looking at it this way, she really have to choose another director to eliminate rumors. If everyone knows that Claire and Wendell got the contract before they get the contract, he can explain to the outside that he is getting the project with the new director, and he is definitely not relying on Claire to sell meat. Moreover, the Lady Wilson has a selfish heart. She really doesn't like Claire. Moreover, she has always favored sons over daughters, and does not want to see Claire's status and strength in the Wilson family grow. She must be contained to ensure that the Wilson family's assets will not leak to outsiders. When she thought of this, she had already made up her mind. So, she looked at Harold and said coldly, "Harold, in the future, you must listen to me. You can do what I ask you to do. You can never do what I don't let you do. Understand?" Harold immediately said faithfully, "Grandma, don't worry. What you say in the future will be what Harold will do. I will fight wherever you refer." "Yeah." Mrs. Wilson nodded with satisfaction, and said, "At the banquet tomorrow, I will tell everyone that you are the new director and are fully responsible for the cooperation with the Emgrand Group, but you must remember that you must be obedient. I can lift you up, and I can step on you." Harold was ecstatic in his heart and quickly said, "Grandma, don't worry. Harold must be obedient."